consistent message. Her party has the most votes, the most seats, and the most reason to lead. Obviously, many people disagree, perhaps even members of her own Tory party. Let's get some perspective. Nile Gardiner is a former aide to Margaret Thatcher. He's now the director of the Heritage Foundation's Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom. Thanks for joining us. So, should she resign? She herself said on May 20th, if I lose 6 seats, it's essentially a defeat, and Jeremy Corbyn will be negotiating Brexit for the UK. Now she wants to cling on to power. Should she go?
Well, that's a very good question. Ultimately, the decision of whether or not Theresa May remains as Prime Minister and the leader of the Conservative Party may not be in her hands. And I think it will be up to the Conservative Party to decide that in the coming days. But having said that, I mean, clearly, you now need a period of, I think, stability, basically, to deliver the Brexit negotiations. I think Theresa May made the right decision here to remain as Prime Minister and to build a partnership with the DUP. I think that is the best way forward. The alternative would have been for Jeremy Corbyn to try and cobble together some sort of coalition, which would, I think, fail miserably. So I do think the best course of action now is to have a Conservative government.
Sorry to jump in. It's difficult to see how when she promised a much stronger majority as a result of this, or hoped for it at least, that now having to cobble together this unlikely coalition with a party in Northern Ireland that has very different priorities and even very different views on how Brexit should work itself out for the country. How is this a strong position to initiate discussions on the most complex and possibly, you know, in terms of how long it will take, complex and difficult set of talks that Britain will have to enter into in many generations, possibly?
Well, clearly it's not an ideal situation for the Prime Minister, and it has to be said it was a very, very disappointing night yesterday. But the Conservatives are still the largest party in the United Kingdom. They were not defeated by the Labour Party, and hence the Conservatives had the right to form the government. And also, with regard to the Democratic Unionist Party, I mean, this is a, you know, this is a perfectly reasonable partner to have. I mean, a Conservative Party who strongly support Brexit and who side with the Conservatives on 9 out of 10 issues. So I think that it's a perfectly reasonable partnership to be striking here.
I just do not, I have to say, I have trouble understanding how, if she felt her position wasn't strong enough before, how after having herself said that it would be a loss to lose 6 seats, she still says she's the best person to lead these negotiations.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, this was a, you know, huge political upset. I think very few people predicted this. We're now in this, this situation, but I think that, you know, the way forward is political stability rather than turmoil, and we do have the opportunity now for some stability, and I think that the Conservatives are going to press ahead.
It is by definition turmoil.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is no real, I think, alternative to that right now, and I think that the Conservatives must press ahead with Brexit, deliver the will of the British people, which most British people support, and even the Labour Party is supporting Brexit, and so that should be the top priority for Great Britain at this time, delivering British sovereignty and self-determination, and that is a task faced by the Prime Minister, and I do hope that she does her best to deliver that. I'm sure she will.
I mean, obviously it's going to be complicated. I wonder how European countries, especially those key EU members, I'm talking about Germany with Angela Merkel, France with Emmanuel Macron, they're probably watching with great interest what's going on in this country. How is that going to affect how talks unfold between the UK and the EU, as it's in such a weak position right now with so much instability and uncertainty hanging over the government?
Well, I think the talks, you know, continue regardless, but with an extremely tight majority, if there is a partnership with the DUP, I think there's very little sort of room for manoeuvre for Theresa May. And I don't think that she would be in any position to be making any sort of concessions, actually, to the EU. I think that the election result actually significantly strengthens the position of the Brexit hardliners within the Conservative Party, and I'd expect to see Theresa May negotiating in an extremely tough manner with European leaders, and that's actually, I think, a good thing for the British Prime Minister.
But with what mandate, though, Niall? I don't. With what mandate? With what mandate is she negotiating in a tough or in a
The mandate
soft way?
here is twofold. I mean, firstly, of course, with the referendum, the British public voted for Brexit. Secondly, the Conservatives remain the single largest party in Great Britain, and that is still a mandate. And that is the procedure followed in Great Britain, as it has been for centuries. And I think that the Conservatives have every right to move forward with their agenda today.
Nile Gardiner, thanks very much. Pleasure having you on. We really